All right, guys, quick update on the aquatic system. As you can see, the long-promised flood and drain beds are here. Eventually, I want to double the number of beds, but this is probably all I'm going to do this year. I'll go ahead and get the cap rails in. And what I did is I just put them straight over the tanks and made sure there was enough space to go ahead and do my cap rails so I can get this thing painted in the next couple weeks. These are actually 14-gallon concrete mixing trays you can get from Lowe's. I think they're 13 bucks, right? So it comes out to around $1 a gallon. And the media that you see here is expanded shale. We're experimenting with this year. And this is basically what you'd call a capping. So what we actually have is a layer of lava rock, and then this caps it. It makes it easy to plant into. You kind of get the best of both worlds. This stuff's super light. I mean, really super lightweight. But yet we still have the big porous lava rock down there act as a biological filter. And that one's not in cycle. That one just started cycling. Actually, it looks like it's about to end its cycle. I want to show you how I do these bell siphons. Real simple. 2-inch piece of pipe. And there has to be a giant loud truck, doesn't there? And I just cut a slit at the point I want the siphon to break, like 3/4 away around the pipe. Very reliable siphon break. It's a piece of 4-inch pipe. It's got slits in it below the gravel to let water flow, and that keeps the media out as an excluder. And it's a piece of 3/4-inch pipe down there that the overflow comes from. Bulkheads are from Tractor Supply. They're about $7 a piece. Bell siphon sits there, and we pull a little bit of pipe on there. Make sure you get a good pull on your siphon. I think that one's about to break. Little water cress planted in this one. This one's planted with water chestnut. I put a bunch of ones in it, but I just yanked one of the ones that was already sprouted out to remind me that I planted it until they start coming up, so I don't start throwing a bunch more in here. And one of the reasons I wanted to get on this really fast, with everything coming up on me this year, you know, things got out ahead of me. As you can see, we got some algae issues going on, and we've lost some fish. This does two things. It adds filtration, and it adds shade. And that's going to go a long way toward fixing this. I also, last night with that storm, I think this pond actually overflowed, and I lost some duckweed. But I got 2 pounds of duckweed that should be here today or tomorrow. And that's enough to completely cover this pond and completely cover the pond down there. Now here's the interesting thing. I've had problems really holding the duckweed because of the overflows. And the overflows have been causing the duckweed to move around and get tumbled over and tumbled over and tumbled over. And it can't make that nice mat that it likes to make. So this is what I came up with. I took a 5-gallon bucket and drilled a bunch of holes about that big in it. I dumped a bag of lava rock in it. I stood it up on a couple cinder blocks so that it was high enough, basically a cinder block and a half, so it was high enough. My overflows are now going down, hitting the water, going through the lava rock, creating another level of biological filtration, coming out the bottom of the bucket. The current's underneath, and that way this duckweed can form its nice mat that it wants to form. The other thing I did is I threw a couple small barley straw bales in there. That's probably overkill, because by the time, that takes a couple, 3 weeks to do its job. I get duckweed completely covering this thing and that one, and this is done in a couple days, because it'll take up nutrient, but it'll also provide shade and rob that algae of all that sunlight that it needs. Down here I actually have a lot of azolla, but I have the same system going on. So again, water goes up there, drops to there, drops back to here, pumps right there, restarts the whole process. What's different now, and it is, I can tell already it's making a difference. I can see the water clarity starting to come up, is instead of that water just running into those 3 tanks and dumping over, it's coming in, it's filling those ebb and flows, and then it's flushing out. So it's slowly filling and flushing out. So the water actually stops for a while, but they're not all timed exactly the same. So it's going here and there. Sometimes 2 of them go at once and really push a lot of water. But what that means is when that water goes into those tanks, there's a lot more force behind it. Because instead of dividing it up across 3 and having to throttle it so all 3 get about the same amount and throttle it back, what's happening is we're doing that, but now we're doing that inside the beds. And there's kind of a balancing act with a bell siphon. We have to bring the water in to the bed fast enough to overrun and trigger the siphon to flow, but slow enough that when it gets to the bottom, it'll break, because it starts to slow down and slow down and slow down. If that's running too slow, or after that's running too fast, it'll just keep catching itself. It'll never break. If it's running too slow, it'll get to the top, it'll start overflowing, it'll come to a balance, and it'll never trigger and actually trigger the siphon. But I got them all dialed in, and once you have them dialed in, barring any kind of major alterations to your system, you shouldn't have to touch it. And I think we're exactly where we need to be. This one down here gave me hell, and I had actually I had a hard time getting it to trigger, so I'd actually put an elbow on it and angled it back a little bit to give it a little more pull. Then it gave me hell with dying down. So what I did is I took it and just yanked that off and started over again, and eventually got it dialed in. And as you can see, this is always good. When you walk up and you see your bell siphon's not running, assuming your water's running, that means nothing's wrong. When it's running, it could be running at the bottom and not breaking a siphon, or run at the top and not triggering, so you got to hang out. But you come out and it's not running, but your system's running, water's going into it, that means it's at a break point. That means it's functioning. So this system should be getting a lot healthier going forward. We still have our major expansion plan. That'll probably be a summer project at this point. But this is going to be really, really valuable. And I've come to like doing these so much. And all in with parts and everything and media, you can get off to put one of these beds in for about $20 to $25, depending on what you use for media. Where can you get your media from a rock yard? Do you have to buy it in small bags, what have you? We can get this from a rock yard. Lava rock I can get from a rock yard, but it's way too far to go when I get the two bags for $6. So I'm about $25 all in to put one of these beds in. And that means I can expand this system infinitely. And what I'm thinking about doing is maybe putting one above each one of these tanks in some way I haven't quite figured out yet. That'll put 5 media beds into this system, which again will do a lot for the health. The other thing I need to do is dig some worms out of my other system and drop some worms in these beds. That's always good for your systems as well. They'll get there eventually on their own, but there's no reason kind of not to seed them, so to speak, and get the process kicked off. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with it. Baby ducks are calling me. I got to get to work and get my podcast out for the day. Eat some bacon before I do that. How you guys doing? Ducks. They're getting trained. If you don't know, I do a series called The Duck Chronicles. Episode 12, Season 3 came out today. You can go to duckchronicles.com. It'll pull up the playlist. With that, I'll catch up with you guys later.